The idea of Rahu is the force behind ambition. For those who may be unfamiliar with the story of Rahu, which is found within Vedic astrology, which in Western astrology would be called the North Node, your career aspirations, your ambition when it comes to status in the physical plane, the status quo, or you carving your own path. Rahu in mythology was a demon that disguised itself in the form of a god, went amongst the gods, and as the gods shared nectar or a drink, they passed it around each other, which made all of them immortal. The gods noticed that they had a demon amongst them and quickly cut off his head. However, they were too late because he had already tasted the nectar of the gods and became immortal. Because his head was cut off, his head was named Rahu. The body of the demon was named Ketu, which we will explore on another video. So the idea of Rahu is, when we look at the imagery of Rahu, type in your search engine RAHU. The most common symbolism we will see is Rahu holding a trident, which has 3 points. Rahu, if you break down the letters, also breaks down to 3, by the way. So there's the first correlation. It represents the 3 layers of reality. In mythology, this is called heaven, earth, and hell. When we look at the symbolism that the trident represents, it represents mastery of the elemental forces, or the 3 layers of reality. So mastery over these elemental forces is, if we were to look at these ideas of heaven, earth, and hell as elemental forces, let's see what we'll get. Hell, of course, denotes the idea of fire. The earth, you can say, is water because the earth is mostly water. Therefore, before we would think about physical matter, the idea of the idea of water would be present. And of course, heaven will represent the combination of fire and water, which makes air. Also, when you look at the imagery of Rahu, you're going to notice that the upper half of his body is human, and the lower half of his body is that of a fish, specifically a seahorse. His throne is represented as a lion. He sits on top of a lion. So this also gives you the idea of status within the world, having the fineness of everything. You will also notice when you look at the imagery that Rahu is draped in jewels and accessories. Long hair, you know what I mean? Everything that represents, he's also crowned with the image of a skull right above his third eye. some images you see that his third eye is lit up and it has 3 marks across his forehead. Moving right along, we see that Rahu, and once we bring in the energy of 3, which we know now represents expansion, Rahu can also represent Gnostic thought. Of course, Gnostic comes from Gnosis, which represents knowledge. So when we look at this as a whole, we see that in order to have mastery over the 3 elemental forces, which are fire, water, and air, which all have their particular ideas or principles associated with them, to master the principles of heaven, earth, and hell, because in mythology we are given ideas of heaven, hell, as well as the earth. We are given the layers of reality in 3s. So we all have an idea of what hell is, we have an idea of what earth is, and we have an idea of what heaven is. And all this as a whole is represented as Gnostic thought. Being able to see things on an esoteric level. So although Rahu on the surface represents, you can say Rahu in a sense represents vanity. You know, only being concerned with one's image and not giving concern to things beyond the surface. In other words, not taking things on face value. However, Rahu denotes the idea because we're dealing with Gnostic thought. Rahu says, actually, appearance is everything. I can look at this person's face, and me being familiar with face reading, I can tell the personality of a person just by looking at them. I can look at their face. I can look at their body language. I can listen to their tone of voice. I'm using the surface of what I see to give me information or feedback, and I can literally take appearances as everything, although we commonly hear the sense that never judge a book by its cover. But we also understand that sometimes it's the cover that makes you want to read the book in the first place. Now, let's take it through supreme alphabets, then we will take it through supreme mathematics. We have R, which is the 18th letter. We have A, which is the first letter. We have H, which is the 8th letter. We have U, which is the 21st letter. The R is ruler. The A is a law. Hold on. The H is he or her. The U is universe. Ruler, a law, he or her, universe. When we put this together, the ruler, which represents measurement, a law representing God consciousness as a collective, he or her representing masculine or feminine. Two forms which manifestation will take, a masculine form or a feminine form. Then the universe representing, as if we stroll back up, we'll say the universe represents the heavens, the earth, and hell for the sake of conversation. So what we have, the measurement of God consciousness expressed through either the masculine form or the feminine form, can exist in all layers of reality. So no matter if it's taking a masculine form or a feminine form, the measurement, the prediction, the spirituality of God's consciousness will always manifest in a masculine or feminine form, yet it is able to exist in the heaven realm, in the earth realm, or the hell realms. You can either place yourself in heaven, you can place yourself on earth, or you can place yourself in hell, strictly talking about Gnostic thought. When we look at it from the supreme mathematics, we see that we have 18, 1, 8, 21. We'll write it down here. So if we go down, we have 18. The 1 represents knowledge. The 8 represents build or destroy. Of course, we have the 1 and the 8 given again. So we'll say times 2, essentially. Then we have wisdom, knowledge. The 2 is wisdom. Of course, the 1 is knowledge. So we have, once we put it together, the knowledge of how to build or add on to nature or destroy or take away from nature. We know how to give and we know how to receive. We know how to plant a garden and we know how to level the field so that we can plant other things on top of that garden if necessary, depending on the season. So we get a sense of the knowledge of the seasons. When should I do certain things and when should certain things be held off till further notice? So the knowledge of these cycles turns into wisdom. It turns into basically memorized thought. So you have to consciously observe things for a certain amount of time. Once you have put in enough observation hours, it becomes second nature, or it seeps into your subconscious so that you don't have to consciously think about it no more. Instead, it becomes a level of feedback or wisdom so that you can put your mind into the alpha state so that you can see more of reality. Your knowledge becomes expanded at this point, representing the you, the knowledge, wisdom of the knowledge of the 2 instead of the 1. Or in other words, we understand there is an exoteric as well as a esoteric. That's why we have the times 2 here. We know that it is 2 layers. So having the wisdom to see beyond the knowledge of the appearances. We're able to see beyond the appearances, but not dismiss the appearances. To just as Rahu has stated, we're able to observe the appearance and receive feedback so that the knowledge can come through. And a level of it's feeding us on the esoteric level as well as an exoteric. We're getting both realms of thought fed back to us based on our observations. So to sum it all up, Rahu represents Gnostic thought, which is mastery of the three layers of reality, or the three elements. That's why it represents the trident, expansion of the 3 points, which is the measurement of God consciousness expressing itself through the masculine or feminine, which can exist on heaven or earth or hell, which represents states of consciousness. You can place your consciousness in heaven, earth, or hell, depending on your methodology of thought, which is based on your knowledge of the cycles of not only the earth but yourself, the knowledge of your cycles. There are certain seasons where you have a certain level of energy, and there's other seasons where you have more or less energy. So you being able to measure your own cycles gives you the wisdom of everything around you, as well as yourself, from an esoteric level as well as an exoteric. So you can then make adjustments and predictions and equations so that you can solve things on a grander scale.